public. Roll call vote, please.
Trustee Aguisa,
Here.
Trustee Ahuna,
Bill?
Trustee Akaka,
Ill.
Trustee Akina,
Good morning. Aloha.
Trustee Lee,
Ill.
Trustee Carmen Buru Lindsay,
Here.
Trustee Robert Lindsay excused, Trustee Whitehead excused, Chairperson Machado,
Present.
7 present, Mr. Hall.
Okay, members, we will now move to Roman, wait, let me begin by saying that there is a 72-hour rule pursuant to OHA BOT Operations Manual, Section 49, for items 2A, Roman numeral 5B1, which is the CLA referral from the Committee on Resource Management. With that said, we will now go to Roman numeral 2 for the approval of minutes.
So move for the minutes on September 26, 2019.
It's been moved and can we get a second?
Second, Madam Chair.
Second by trustee Kaleaina Lee. See what here, we are on the minutes, Roman numeral 2. Thank you for joining us. Okay, if there's no questions on the minutes, I'll call for the roll call, please.
Trustee Aguisa,
Aye.
Trustee Ahuna,
Aye.
Trustee Akaka,
Aye.
Trustee Akina,
Aye.
Trustee Lee,
Aye.
Trustee Carmen Buru Lindsay,
Aye.
Trustee Whitehead,
Yes.
Chairperson Machado,
Yes.
8 yes votes.
Okay, members, we are in the public testimony, Roman numeral 3. I'd like to call on Jermaine Myers to please come forward. Thank you, Jermaine, for taking the time to come back again to join us.
I just had a question regarding housekeeping. So I
Yes.
understand my camera may be in the way. So if it is, just let me know where I have to move it. Because I can unplug it, it has battery. So if it is in the way, just let me know. And then wherever the
It really
media.
isn't because we're still doing the live stream.
No, it's the traffic between the chair and the camera.
Yeah, I've been doing that for the last 2 years. Nobody had, except that one time when I didn't have it on the.
Couple times it fell, yeah.
But I mean, if I gotta move it,
Okay.
just tell me where the media and beneficiaries need to go.
Someone was,
And then I can make sure that I take care of the next meeting. Is that okay?
Okay.
I just want to make sure I can videotape it for my,
Oh, yeah,
my
yeah.
library.
I think it's the tripod, I think they're concerned with that. Maybe you folks have, maybe Sylvia, you gotta move more close to the table.
Oh, no, she's fine. But here's the thing is that we've been asking for the thing to be archived so that we have access to it, but OHA is still yet. Kapohana told us, the last one, told us that he was checking what legal regarding, but it's a public meeting. I mean, this is supposed to be a public meeting and we asked for it to be on Olelo, but it's not. So unfortunately, in order for me to have an archive of what the trustees spoke about at the table, other than what's on the minutes, I have to videotape that.
Yeah, I don't think it's an issue with the videotape, it's the safety of when we have people coming and going to sit down to give public testimony.
If I have to end up standing up and holding in my hand or a different type of tripod, a more expensive one, I'll buy it because I just gotta continue to have
Well,
a
today I think we're fine and we're just noting and with those that come to speak, just to be very careful as they come in as they leave.
Okay,
From
if
the
you want me to
table.
move in the back there at the next meeting, I can, trustee, chair. I really can. Wherever you guys would have had, if KITV or whoever else came with all of their apparatus and their people, just tell me where to go and then I'll just do it. Yeah.
Thank you for that.
Yeah,
So
I don't wanna
maybe
be
next
a
time we
hindrance.
try over here, because when the media show up, they come here,
Sometimes
some
they
go over there, some over there, yeah,
Yeah.
either way.
I just gotta bring a
Yeah.
taller tripod.
Okay,
Okay.
okay,
Thank
Jermaine,
you. Thank you,
the
Kalamai.
time never stopped yet, so when you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Good morning, and if I forget to tell all of you, happy holidays. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays, Jimmy.
Thank you. Aloha, my name is Jermaine Myers, and I am an OHA beneficiary for Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment, emphasis on empowerment. I'm also a Nanakuli Point Homestead lessee, and I share with you my data views and arguments regarding Agenda Item 5B-1 CLA Final Report. Trustees, on a federal level, the Uniform Prudent Investor Act, UPIA, was adopted in 1992. On a state level, we have Hawaii Revised Statutes Chapter 554, Trust and Trustees. I want to highlight to you under Chapter 554 is Hawaii Revised Statutes 554A-1, definitions. As used in this chapter, prudent person means a trustee whose exercise of trust powers is reasonable and equitable in view of the interests of income or principal beneficiaries, or both, and in view of the manner in which persons of ordinary prudence, diligence, discretion, and judgment would act in the management of their own affairs. Would act in the management of their own affairs. Yesterday, I saw how Board Vice Chair and Trustee Lee would act in the management of his own affairs. And yesterday, I saw how Trustee Keli'i Akina would act in the management of his own affairs. When it applies to the results of the CLA report. Further, under HRS 554-A3C 16 states that trustees are responsible to ensure the assets of the trust against damage or loss, and the trustee against liability with respect to third persons. 24 states to prosecute or defend actions, claims, or proceedings for the protection of trust assets and of the trustee in the performance of trustee duties. HRS Chapter 554C-5, Loyalty. A trustee shall invest and manage the trust assets solely in the interest of the beneficiaries. Solely in the interest of the beneficiaries, not in the interest of the trustees, not in the interest of the CEO, but solely in the interest of the beneficiaries. And State Auditor Les Kondo repeated this in the audit report 18-03. Hawaii Revised Statutes 554-8, reviewing compliance. Compliance with the prudent investment rule is determined in light of the facts and circumstances existing at the time of the trustee's decision or action, and not by hindsight. You are to determine in light of the facts and circumstances existing when you made the decisions you made in your delegation, and today, after you receive this report, and not by hindsight. Hawaii Revised Statutes 554C-9, delegation of investment and management functions. Management functions is what you did and is brought to your attention by the CLA report. This is what the law states regarding delegation of management functions. A trustee may delegate investment and management functions that a prudent trustee of comparable skills could properly delegate under the circumstances. The trustee shall exercise reasonable care, skills, and caution in, number one, selecting an agent, kaupahana. 2, establishing the scope and terms of the delegation consistent with the purposes and terms of the trust. And I would like to highlight to you that the scope and terms of the delegation consistent with the purpose and terms of the trust were highlighted in CLA's scope of work beginning on page 24, which you should read again in detail. I want to highlight for you the scope of work. 3A1 states, approval and execution in accordance with HRS Chapter 103D, Hawaii Procurement Code, and HRS Chapter 84, Standards of Conduct, and the OHA's applicable internal policies and procedures. Additional state laws needed to be followed by the agents you selected and delegated management going back to HRS 554C-9. It states in 3 that trustees periodically review the agent's actions in order to monitor the agent's performance and compliance with the terms of the delegation. Chair, my time is up, and I'd be happy to come back during community concerns to finish up my testimony. My testimony is talking about delegation, and yesterday you made a motion to delegate to administration. And I really would like Kapohana to understand the responsibilities that she's taking upon herself in accepting this delegation. And I also like you as trustees to understand what you are taking on responsibility when you delegate it to someone else. It states here in Hawaii Revised Statutes 554C-8 regarding compliance and 9 regarding delegation of management functions. And so I want to just wrap it up right now and just let you know I'll come back and talk about delegation because it's really, really critical to what we're reviewing in the CLA.
Absolutely, Jermaine. Thank you for being understanding with the time limitations.
Yeah,
Mahalo.
thank you.
You have anybody else that's, okay, go on? Okay. Okay, members, we will now move on to Roman numeral, I'll call on trustee Wahe. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Roman numeral 4, interim no, I'm sorry, take out interim. Give,
I see you.
Kapohana, please, if you have any updates, sorry about that. Sylvia?
No, thank you, Chair. Trustees, most of our updates are operational. It's a busy time of the year for the organization, so I'll send those. Given the agenda item importance, I'll send all of those operational updates to you. But there's a lot going on in our organization.
Okay, thank you, Sylvia. We are now going to move on to Roman numeral 5, new business. I'll call on trustee Wahe. Action item referral from committee BAE 19-02.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, your Committee on Beneficiary Advocacy and Empowerment, having met on November 27th, 2019, and after full and free discussion, recommends approval of the following action to the Board of Trustees: to support the following new legislative proposals and approve their inclusion in the 2020 OHA legislative package. OHA 1, restoring Hawaiian expertise in land use and resource management. OHA 2, addressing employment discrimination against former Pa'ahau. OHA 3, preventing of historic preservation review evasion and other violations. OHA 4, protecting our ancestors via Shifty admin rules. OHA 5, facilitating practitioner access onto private lands. And OHA 6, capital improvement project budget requests for OHA's Wahiawa lands.
Trustee Akaka, second. Any discussions on trustee Aquino?
Thank you. As I did in the committee, I will also vote yes on this. However, I do want to point out that I had hoped to have bifurcated OHA 1, restoring Hawaiian expertise in land use and resource management, because there were portions of it with which I could not agree. But I will vote yes on the measure today.
Okay, so noted.
Chair, do you want me to have Jocelyn, our public policy manager, and Kiola, our chief advocate, to come and if there are any discussion items? No?
I don't think it's necessary. We could pick that up again for further discussion with the BAE. Okay, so roll call vote, please.
Trustee Alomisa,
Aye.
trustee Ahuna,
Yes.
trustee Akaka.
Aye.
Trustee Aquino.
Aye.
Trustee Lee.
Aye.
Trustee Carmen Pululenzi.
Aye.
Trustee Wahehe.
Yes.
Chairperson Machado.
Yes.
8 yes votes.
Okay, members, we are now on Roman numeral 5B1. I'll call on trustee Ahuna. Committee referral.
Madam Chair, the Committee on Resource Management, having met on December 4th, 2019, after full and free discussion, recommends approval of the following actions to the Board of Trustees. Move to recommend that, number 1, the Board of Trustees receive the final report on OHA and OHA's LLC's contract and disbursement review prepared by Clifton Larson Allen LLP and commissioned by the Board under 3284 as amended. And 2, direct administration to review and analyze the recommendations contained in the final report and report back to the RM Committee with its analysis and plan to implement the recommendations at the first Resource Management Committee meeting in January of 2020.
Trustee Hulu Lindsay,
Second.
any second? Thank you. Okay, members, if there's no further discussions or comments, roll call vote, please. Trustee Aquino.
Madam Chair, I'm in
Yes.
favor of this, and correct me if I'm out of order in my timing now. I feel it is timely, however, that even as we take this motion, that we give attention to content that was presented by Clifton Larson CLA specifically the red flags for potential fraud, waste, and abuse. It's very difficult to just find that in the 1,100 pages. My team and I have gone through it carefully, and we have identified those and put them in a list. I could take 10 minutes and read that list out, or I could just pass it out to the rest of the board. I would like attention to be given to those items.
I think it's gonna be difficult to submit what you prepared as part of the record, but if you choose to do a testimony, you can sign up for public testimony and go forward up there, and then perhaps become part of the record. What I'm trying to say, we already did the discussion on it. I believe we had this discussion in the ARM committee, the Resource Management Committee yesterday, in preparation for the referral. The action item that we are approving now, which are being recommended for approval, was discussed very thoroughly. Your comments and your opinions were not. And that is what we talked about the red flags very thoroughly with the consultants that were here. Trustee Leahu Issa wanted to have further discussion on one of the items that was presented as part of our red flags called Ahakani, but she didn't get her full disclosure at that time, but knowing that it's contained in the actual report, I think that's kind of important. So I thought we made that kind of clear to you that any additional information, I was not going to receive it. So it's a personal comment as a trustee that you're making, identified as red flags. I believe you already distributed to the media. So I'm not sure why you would want to bring it to the table. It may appear that we're endorsing your personal statements as ours. That's a problem for me as the board chair.
Well, thank you.
Just trying to be clear, so.
Very good.
Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may just respond briefly. No, I absolutely am not seeking the endorsement, nor will I infer that there's any endorsement by the board of my own views. I do believe that it's just important for us to look at that information and would appreciate the opportunity just to distribute it to my colleagues. I don't need to make any reference beyond distributing it, and they may read it as they like, and with my encouragement, and that's all I'm asking.
One suggestion would be you could distribute it to them, to their offices with a cover memo. That could be another way of distribution, but not at the table.
I would be glad to distribute it at their offices if that would be appropriate, given sunshine laws. Would that be?
Well, after we take the decision, you could pretty much do whatever you want.
Okay, very
You're not
good.
influencing our decision making.
No, you can't circulate outside of an agendized meeting.
Okay.
It's a violation of the sunshine law.
Okay, go
We're
ahead.
very keen on that.
So all I ask is that I be able to distribute my report to my colleagues and leave it with them.
And my official position is I won't accept it as the board chair.
Earlier you mentioned that I might do it as testimony. Could I do it at that time or as community concerns at the end of the meeting?
You can just circulate it right here at the table.
I don't want to receive it.
That's her prerogative.
You don't have to take it.
Okay, let me stop this debate and I'll call
No, seriously.
Trustee Lena Ala.
Yeah. I mean, Trustee Aquina did his, and Trustee John and I have my own too. Because it was so voluminous and it was like 1,100 pages, so my staff and I, we kind of picked out, really succinctly, just picked out certain contracts, just so that it's easier to look at and read, and maybe then we can relate to Hana when she brings it to us in January. You know, we can just kind of, instead of all the trustees going through all of this. So I understand what Kelly's doing, but mine is really like elementary school kind. And John and I kind of agreed that it was important that we look at the contracts in here.
I look forward to reading it.
I wasn't going to distribute.
Trustee Lena Ala, I would recommend that you give that to Sylvia.
Sylvia.
Once we have to take action first, okay? Let me move to take action, and then we can. I would recommend your report and the
Great.
two of your report to go to
Great, then she,
Sylvia directly, or any other trustee after this. If folks want to be able to forward additional information, it should go to Sylvia.
Madam Chair,
Trustee
may
Aquina.
may I take your first suggestion and simply during community concerns submit it as my testimony, and that'll be that. And I
cannot
won't
prevent
read.
you from doing public testimony, so can you sign up?
All right, I'd be glad to, thank you.
Yeah, well, let me,
And by the way, I won't take the opportunity to speak long, I'll simply distribute it
Okay.
at that time.
so the chair acknowledges trustee Kiliakina on the public testimony. Although we've passed that area, we're way down to item 5B1.
Yeah.
But I'll go back to the agenda to allow you that privilege to offer testimony on the
All right,
public.
thank you.
Can we
Tr-
give
Trustees?
public
Yeah.
Trustees are able to give public testimony, you can go out of order. Go ahead,
Thank you very much. Trustees, I'll keep this very
Madam
brief.
Chair,
trustee Kaliana.
I would ask that if trustee Aquino is going to be giving public testimony as a beneficiary, that he sits where a beneficiary would give public testimony and not in his trustee seat.
Would you mind relocating?
At the request of the chair, I'll be glad to. Thank you
Okay,
very
thank
much.
you. And if you have your statement or your personal comments that you prepared, that you want to circulate it now, this is the time to do it.
Trustees, I thank you very much for this opportunity, and Madam Chair, I appreciate very much being able to address this. All I want to say is that the important thing about the audit is we look at what it really found for us. It pointed out several red flags, and I compiled them for you, and I'll appreciate it if you'll take a look at the appendix of this document I'm going to distribute now, and it's for your reference. Thank you very much. I hope it helps us to do our fiduciary duty. Much aloha.
Okay.
Madam Chair, thank you for letting me testify
Okay.
before the Board of
So we
Trustees.
have copies being distributed, and it'll appear as part of the record as public testimony. Thank you for that. So members, we have a motion that has been made and seconded by trustee Hulu Lindsay. Can we do a roll call vote?
Trustee Alvarez,
Aye.
trustee
We're
Almona,
Yes.
approving the motion.
trustee Akaka,
Aye.
trustee Aquino,
Aye.
trustee Lee,
Aye.
trustee Carmen Bulu
Aye.
trustee Whitehead,
Yes?
chairperson Machado.
Yes, motion carried, right? Okay, members, thank you so much. Let us move on to recusing ourselves. I'm sorry, trustee Lee, I cut you off. Did you want to express? Okay.
So moved,
Okay,
Madam Chair.
let us recuse ourselves into executive session pursuant to HRS 92-5A4. We moved and seconded by trustee Wu, seconded by trustee Whitehead. Roll call vote. We
Trustee
need
Alvarez,
six votes to go.
trustee Almona,
Yes.
trustee Akaka,
Aye.
trustee Aquino,
Aye.
trustee Lee,
Aye.
trustee Carmen Bulu
Aye.
trustee Whitehead,
Yes?
chairperson Machado.
Yes.
8 yes.
Everyone, we're back in order. We are now on community concerns. I'll call on Jermaine as a continuation from public testimony.
Thank you. Aloha trustees. Again, HRS 55C-9, delegation of investment, delegation of investment and management functions. A trustee may delegate investment and management functions that a prudent trustee of comparable skills could properly delegate under the circumstances. The trustee shall exercise reasonable care, skill, and caution in, number one, selecting an agent. Number two, establishing the scope and terms of the delegation consistent with the purposes and terms of the trust. And number three, periodically reviewing the agent's actions in order to monitor the agent's performance and compliance with the terms of the delegation. In performing a delegated function, an agent or kapohana owes a duty to the trust to exercise reasonable care to comply with the terms of the delegation. A trustee who complies with the requirements of subsection A is not liable to the beneficiaries or the trust for the decisions or actions of the agent to whom the function was delegated. You must read A. However, in D it states, by accepting the delegation of a trust function from the trustee of a trust, that is subject, by accepting the delegation of a trust function from the trustee of a trust that is subject to the law of this state, an agent submits to the jurisdiction of the courts of this state. Delegation to a state employee includes compliance with state procurement code and state ethics code. For the past 2 years, I have been videotaping, and I've been videotaping all the things that I brought to your attention, including the ahakani and various things that's been noted on this report. And I would like to say in regards to, let's heed to legal counsel. You know, when your doctor gives you advice, or a lawyer gives you advice, but let me just say with a doctor, you are still responsible for your health, whether or not you're going to live or you're going to die. So this organization is still responsible for your decisions. We're going to live or we're going to die by your decisions. If the doctor tells you, you need a surgery, and you don't even go and do a second opinion or do your due diligence, and you just follow, okay, I go take the surgery, and that wasn't the right course of action, you're going to suffer the consequences. We are going to suffer the consequences for all 9 of your decisions. And so I just want to make that to your awareness. Besides the law, you need to do your own due diligence in making your understanding of the recommendations provided by either the agent or by your legal counsel, which is another form of an agent. That is the huge responsibility that you ask the beneficiaries and the citizens of the state to take part in. So when I'm watching all of this go on, I'm like, wait a minute, there were red flags. Do you need to see purple? Do you need to see yellow? Do you need to see green? You read the scope, and the scope talked about fraud, waste, and abuse. That was part of the scope. This agent or CLA was not willing to take responsibility for identifying to you if it is fraud, waste, or abuse. It's your responsibility to look at it with how you would manage your own monies, your own health, and decide if you're going to do this or you're going to do that. Now you say, I created policies already, Jermaine, in 2017 and 2018, 2019, regarding what CLA has brought up. Not all of it. You guys have not bought policies for all of it, but you still need to do more policies. But here's the thing. I already saw in the state audit report, Les Condo, that you are willing to spend ukupaila monies, hundreds of thousands of dollars, for years of litigation with Trustee Akana. Years. I will reference that. You went years after her over one incident. Now, you need to go and look at this report and take criminal or civil action against anyone that violated a procurement code or a state ethics code. No different than you went after Trustee Akana. It is recorded in the state audit. I'm going to hold you accountable to it. And however it's going to happen, Akua will help me to make sure that you are accountable. This is a $400 million trust. You spend $50 million a year. If 80% of it is being misspent, you need to take accountability for it. So this CLA report, I will review it, and I will look at it, and I will highlight to you those things that you should go after, like Akana, go after and make sure there's criminal or civil action, as the prudent chapter 554 told you that you must do. Ehana kako.
Thank you.
Mahalo.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Thomas Miller. Come forward, please. Aloha again, Thomas. He's addressing us on the community concerns.
Yes. Came back again to talk about Alexander and Baldwin
The
and,
racetrack.
the racetrack, Alexander and Baldwin, and most particularly Campbell Estates. On, if you guys have any interactions with them, could you guys answer that, or you guys?
No.
You guys don't answer? Because I really am concerned about what Campbell Estates did, and them breaching their contract with, so I was wondering how can I, or what steps I need to take to bring this on your agenda to get our research back, our track that was stolen from, with Alec Campbell Estates, the initiator, and then Alexander and Baldwin going through with protecting Campbell Estates, and then the initial one was the legislation was the state capitol and that governor at the time I mentioned, John Wahehe, where he gave up that deed where the races were safe to have a track, but evidently Campbell Estates breached it, and so I was wondering where do I go to, because you guys, that's you guys' land, and these guys are bound to protect it. And like, you know, Alexander and Baldwin, they're into malls and shopping centers, and they're not into no community things. And so I asked them, so does that mean you guys conversate with Caucasians and Asians and you neglect the Kanaka Maoris? Because I think the Hawaiians would rather have housing and farmland than some mall that they're not gonna profit off of. They're not profit off of, but have that to be a part of their life, because I don't think back in the day they had malls, and you know, and so that's why I'm coming to you guys again to see what I can do about this matter for you guys to take interest in it, because I had a conversation with a trustee, he just left, and a meeting, when he talked to me outside, he said some names that really scared me, and like I'm really concerned, and so I was wondering what steps I gotta do to address this issue, so you guys can actually look into it, because in the meeting, nobody answered any questions, but when I went outside, it was all blah, blah, blahs, and then I never did get no wham back. And so that's why I've come to see. Could you guys can you guys help me address this issue for our racers?
All I can share with you, Thomas, is that OHA doesn't have any properties or any lands out in Kapolei. The entity that has a majority of that, including Kalailoa, is the Department of Hawaiian Homes, which we're not. They're the ones that developed the Kamakana Ali. That is on the Hawaiian Homes, not OHA.
Right, but the land that actually was condemned to make the racetrack is Department of Land and Natural Resources.
That's DLNR.
That's DLNR, right, and they're
Have this back and forth. Thomas, sorry, we cannot have a back and forth in community concerns because your topic is not on the agenda. So if anybody wanted to speak and talk to you, or trustees wanted to engage, you should come in the public testimony part of the meeting.
right, but it has to be on from my understanding, it has to be on the
You're
agenda.
correct.
So my thing is how do I get my cause
Yeah.
on the agenda?
Well,
That's the one question I wanted to ask
I
you.
understand, but not this way. They cannot engage you.
Right,
They
right.
can listen, but they cannot be asking you questions and vice versa.
Right. So how do I get on the agenda?
Then you have to contact the chair's office.
No, I'll refer back to administration if we could get somebody from public policy or some other area.
There's a process.
What we can do is have our chief advocate and our public policy follow up with, and then help to better understand all of the issues and help to guide our beneficiary in the direct place, yeah?
Yes,
So
yes.
we can definitely have someone from our advocacy come talk story and help to identify what are the moving parts. So trustees, we can do that.
Yeah, that would be most helpful if you could talk to somebody in public policy. What we will do is, we make contact. They're gonna see if they're available now since you're actually here.
Okay, right on, thank you.
And then you can give us an update at the next meeting.
Right, and that's on the 19th.
Gee, you know more than me, eh?
Yeah, now I asked that question because I was skeptical if I wanted to talk today, so I would ask him, oh, when is the next one? He's like,
In case I get that little EBGB.
It is the 19th, you're correct.
Okay,
Okay, thank you, Tom.
okay, you're welcome.
Okay, with that said, trustee Wahehe,
No, Madam Chair, move to adjourn.
Okay, thank you.
there's a second, yeah. A motion to adjourn, move on second, roll call vote.
Trustee Aholisa?
Aye.
Trustee Akaka? Aye. Trustee Akina?
Aye.
Trustee Lee?
Aye.
Trustee Carmen Hololindsay?
Aye.
Trustee Whitehead?
Yes.
Chairperson Machado?
Yes,
Amendments.
members, thank you for all your help in the CLA review from the RM committee to the board table. I feel we've accomplished quite a lot, there's a lot more work we